Salam, peace be upon you. My name is Mohammed Layiq Sediqi, the father of Holophase. Remember the language we are learning. There is one field, phi, the holophase, one continuous cyclic movement from which all of reality unfolds. When phi begins to change, its first derivatives appear, and with them, the three dimensions show themselves at once. Time as omega, space as k, and motion as v, built from both. Every higher derivative is a finer question about how phi changes, and each one casts three shadows together: a time shadow, a space shadow, and a motion shadow. These echoes mix and weave into one another, forming the patterns we call fields, particles, bodies, thoughts, and worlds. In this picture, everything that exists is a living tapestry of phi, endlessly echoing through its derivatives and their dimensional shadows. Today, we focus on one essential component of the epistemic firewall. In this part 17, we erect a barrier against one of the most subtle and corrupting practices in science: model class registry and admissible grammar generator, preventing rule shopping. The core skill you will gain is that of a search auditor. But to understand this, we must first step away from complex equations and understand the human problem at its heart. Our core question is, how do we stop people from switching rule families until something fits, then calling it truth? Imagine you are playing a game of guess the pattern. I show you a sequence: 2, 4, 6, 8. You guess my rule. You are adding 2 each time. That's a good guess, but another player says, no, the rule is the numbers are even and increasing. Another says, the rule is a formula. Take the position, multiply by 2. All these rules predict the next number to be 10. They all fit the given data. Now, what if I show you the next number in my sequence? 12. All three rules still fit. Then I show you 14. They all still fit. The game seems pointless. Everyone's rule works. But then I show you 17. Suddenly, chaos. The first rule, add 2, breaks. The second rule, even and increasing, breaks. Only the third rule, position times 2, predicted 16, not 17. But a clever player, a rule shopper, now changes their guess. They abandon add 2 and say, my new rule is start at 2, add 2, then add 2, then add 2, then add 5. This new complicated rule fits all the data: 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 14, 17. It is a patchwork. It has no consistency. It is not a real pattern. It is a story made up after seeing each new piece of data. This is rule shopping. In science, it is the practice of trying one family of equations, seeing it fail, switching to another, tweaking parameters, adding terms, and repeating until a formula aligns with the available data. The final successful rule is not necessarily a truth about phi. It is the artifact of an unconstrained search. It has not been tested. It has been selected from a vast menu. The firewall's registry function forces this search into the open. It mandates that any proposed rule must come from a declared, pre-registered family of possible rules, and the proposer must publish not just the final rule, but the entire candidate space that was searched, what failed within it, and why. The core revelation is a rule's credibility depends on the constraints of the search that found it. A rule pulled from an infinite set has negligible weight. A rule derived as the unique, necessary solution from a tightly constrained, well-justified set carries authority. Truth is not about fit alone. It is about fit combined with the scarcity of viable alternatives given your starting assumptions. Let's build this idea from the ground up, using a simple physical example everyone can feel: a swinging pendulum. We want to discover the rule that governs its swing. We collect data, 5 sentences. Sentence 1. Period equals 2 seconds. Length equals 1 meter. Sentence 2. Period equals 2.83 seconds. Length equals 2 meters. We want to infer the rule linking period, t, and length, l. Now, think of a family of possible rules. Not one equation, but a type or style of equation. Family A, the simple power law family. This family contains all rules of the form. The period t is proportional to the length L raised to some power n. In simple English, t equals some constant times L to the n. The search within this family is for the right power n and the right constant. Maybe n is 0.5, square root. Maybe n is 1, direct proportion. Maybe n is 2, square. This family has a certain size. It contains infinitely many specific rules, but they all share a simple structure. Family B, the arbitrary polynomial family. This family contains all rules of the form. T equals a constant plus another constant times L plus another constant times L squared plus another constant times L cubed, and so on. This is a much, much larger and more flexible family. It can produce wildly curved, wiggly lines to fit data. Its size is enormous. If you try a rule from family A, say T proportional to L, and it doesn't fit your 2 data points well, you might be tempted to shop, to jump to family B. Within family B, you can always find the polynomial that fits your 2 points perfectly. But that perfect fit is meaningless. You use the huge, flexible family to fit a tiny amount of data. The rule you found is likely nonsense. It's overfitting. The firewall's model class registry is where you must declare, before seeing the data, which family you are searching in. Are you searching in the simple power law family or the arbitrary polynomial family? You must state it up front. This is your admissible grammar, the set of allowed sentence structures for your law. Why is this necessary? The failure mode it prevents is unbounded capitulation to data, also known as overfitting or the garden of forking paths. Without a registry, a researcher has an effectively infinite capacity to adjust their model family to fit any given set of 5 sentences. They can add a new field, a new interaction term, a new dimension, all after seeing the data. Each adjustment can be presented as a theoretical insight, but it is really just a move in a game of fitting. The final complex rule may fit the existing data perfectly, but has zero predictive power for new data because it has absorbed the noise and idiosyncrasies of the old data. It is a search artifact, not a law of phi. Now let's connect this to the triunity. This is crucial. Admissible families must respect the triunity from their very conception. A family of rules that secretly prefers or exclusively allows time-only omega, space-only k, or motion-only v explanations is building in a bias. For example, a family for cosmology that only allows rules tweaking the expansion rate, an omega-type quantity, without corresponding rules for spatial curvature, a k-type quantity, or matter flows, v-type quantities, is triunity incomplete. It permits rule shopping within a distorted, narrow view of reality. The admissible grammar must ensure that candidate rules can meaningfully constrain omega, k, and v together. You cannot solve a problem by arbitrarily changing the omega part of your equations while holding the k and v parts fixed, unless your family explicitly defines that as the only thing allowed to vary. Let's connect this to energy as tally. This exposes a devastating form of rule shopping. If apparent energy conservation only emerges after hopping between families, for instance, if you try one family where energy isn't conserved, then switch to another where it is, and the fit improves, that conservation is likely a search artifact. It's like balancing a company's books by repeatedly changing the accounting standard until the debits and credits match. The match doesn't prove the books were originally correct. It proves you found a standard that makes them look correct. In physics, many derivations of conservation laws work backwards. They insist on energy conservation and then build or select families that enforce it. The firewall demands that the family and its grammar be justified independently of the conservation law you hope to find. The tally must be a derived output of the search within a fixed family, not a selection criterion for the family itself. The operational heart of this is the practice of pre-registration in modern science. When a clinical trial is pre-registered, the researchers must state upfront, we will test drug X against placebo for condition Y using Z as our primary outcome measure. They cannot see the data, then decide to test a different outcome or a subgroup where the drug happened to work. This prevents result shopping. The model class registry does the same for theories. We will search for a rule within the family of linear second-order differential equations. No shopping allowed after the data comes in. The firewall role is that of the anti-gambling gate. You are the auditor. When a researcher presents a rule G, you do not just look at G and the data. You demand the search log. You ask, show me the registry entry for your model family. Show me the other rules in this family that you tried and rejected. Show me the parameter space you explored. Show me the games you refused to play. The other families you considered and justifiably excluded a priori. You are checking for the integrity of the inference process itself. Let's make this concrete with a non-technical analogy that everyone can grasp. Diagnosing an illness. A patient has a set of symptoms: fever, cough, fatigue. These are the data sentences. Diagnostic family 1, viral bacterial. The rules in this family link symptoms to biological pathogens. Rule G1A, influenza virus. Rule G1B, bacterial pneumonia. Rule G1C, common cold virus. Diagnostic family 2, psychological somatization. The rules here link symptoms to mental states. Rule G2A, stress-induced psychosomatic illness. Rule G2B, conversion disorder. A bad doctor might rule shop. They test for influenza, family 1. The test is negative. Instead of thoroughly exploring other rules in the same family, like testing for pneumonia, they immediately jump to family 2. Ah, they say, it must be stress. They have shopped for a rule that fits the absence of an influenza signal. This is poor medicine. The correct approach is to declare your diagnostic pathway. I will first exhaust the most likely biological pathogens, family 1, using these specific tests before considering psychological causes, family 2. The order and boundaries of the search are predefined. This is the registry in action. In science, the doctor is the theorist. The diagnostic families are the model classes. For example, modified gravity versus dark matter particle. Rule shopping between these families after each new astronomical observation creates a confused, unreproducible literature. Now, Let's explore an Afghanistan-inspired analogy that makes the stakes of unregistered searching devastatingly clear. The resolution of a water rights dispute using historical evidence. Two villages, A and B, dispute water from a shared carez. Each presents historical documents to support their claim. Village A's search family. They focus on written land deeds. They search through this family of documents. They find a deed from 1920 granting them water every Monday. Village B's search family. They focus on oral testimonies and traditional practice. They gather stories from elders about water sharing agreements from time immemorial that give them water on Tuesday. A bad arbitrator would rule shop. They look at the deed from Village A. It seems strong. But then Village B presents a compelling elder testimony. The arbitrator, swayed, now ignores the deed and switches to valuing oral history. Then Village A presents another deed. The arbitrator switches back. This is rule shopping across families of evidence. The result is not justice. It is confusion and perpetual conflict, as each side learns to present the type of evidence the arbitrator currently favors. The wise counsel, acting as the firewall, establishes a registry of admissible evidence before hearing the case. They declare, "For this dispute, we will consider only written deeds dated before 1950 and verified by the regional archive. Oral testimonies may provide context but cannot override a valid deed." This registry defines the search family. It prevents the arbitrator from shopping between incompatible types of rules, deeds versus stories. Now, both villages must search within the same constrained space. They present their best deeds. The council compares them within that common framework. The decision may still be difficult, but it is now principled, transparent, and stable. The rule shopping is over. In Holophase, the villages are competing theories. The deeds and oral histories are different model classes. For example, quantum field theory versus classical continuum models. The arbitrator is the scientific community. Without a registry, we hop between frameworks based on which one best fits the latest data, leading to a fragmented, non-convergent science. With a registry, we commit to a well-defined search space and converge on answers within it. Now, what happens when the check fails? The license consequence is severe. Fail rule is labeled search biased, cannot be certified, and must be rederived under a registered family with a fully logged exclusion report. The rule is not admitted to the canon of credible knowledge. It is sent back. The researcher must redo the work with transparent, auditable methodology. Let's state the explicit prediction and falsification for the registry system in plain terms. Prediction. With a rigorously enforced model class registry, different research teams, given the same data and starting from the same registered family, should converge on the same small set of candidate rules. Instead of the current state of affairs, where endless model variants proliferate, teams will converge because their search is bounded by the same publicly declared constraints. The prediction is convergent understanding instead of divergent speculation. Falsification condition for the integrity of the inference. If a rule's apparent success depends critically on unreported jumping between families, or on endlessly tuning parameters within an unreasonably large family, then the inference fails. The falsification is the audit that reveals the unconstrained search. If you can show that the researcher had an effective search space vastly larger than the one reported, and that the rule selection is not robust within the declared space, the rule is invalidated as a discovery. A clear example from modern science is the application crisis in social psychology. Researchers would collect data, then try many different statistical tests and groupings, different families of analysis, until they found a statistically significant result. They would then report only that significant result, hiding the dozens of failed analyses. This is rule shopping in a statistical family. The result is a literature filled with false, non-replicable discoveries. The firewall's registry solution is the move towards pre-registered analysis plans, where the exact analytical family must be declared before data collection begins. Now, we must state the mandatory Episode 11 axioms, now enforced by registry discipline. Rules do not become real by elegance, consensus, or tradition. They earn a license only by surviving falsification, variation, independence, and scope discipline. The registry is what makes honest falsification and variation possible. If you can always shop for a new rule after a failure, you never truly face falsification. If you can always vary your model family to fit new data, you haven't demonstrated scope discipline. The registry locks you into a family, forcing the rule to bear the risk of failure. And when a rule fails, we do not believe harder. We tighten, downgrade, or retire its license. Under the registry, failure of a rule within its registered class leads to the tightening or retirement of that entire family's license, not just the tweaking of a parameter. It forces paradigm-level accountability. The skill you gain from this part is inferential auditing. You learn to look behind the published rule and ask, what is the family of rules this came from? How big was that family? Was this the only rule in that family, or the best of 10,000? Was the family pre-registered? This skill allows you to distinguish a profound discovery from a fancy fit. Finally, let's summarize the epistemic function of this part without a single complex equation. We have defined the model class registry and admissible grammar generator as the firewall mechanism that prevents rule shopping. It mandates that rules be drawn from a pre-registered, well-defined family of possibilities. This ensures search transparency, penalizes overfitting, and forces triunity coherence from the outset. The firewall acts as an anti-gambling gate, with you as the auditor demanding the complete search log. The explicit prediction is convergent inference, independent teams converging on the same rules when using the same registered family. The explicit falsification condition is the discovery of unreported search flexibility, hidden jumping between families or parameter fishing. The license consequence is the rejection of the rule as search biased until it is rederived under auditable registry protocols. This strengthens the firewall by attacking the problem at the root, the inferential process itself. It ensures that the rules presented for licensing are not just well-formed and proof-carrying, but are also the honest output of a disciplined search, not a cherry-picked souvenir from a garden of forking paths. It is what makes science a truth-seeking process rather than a curve-fitting competition. If you want to see the full mathematical derivations and exact equations behind this idea, you can search for Holophase on Zenodo. There you will find the scientific papers that this audio journey is built on. Carry the discipline of the registry auditor. In your search for truth, first define the boundaries of your search. This humility and rigor are the marks of a trustworthy scientist. Now we bridge to the next and final foundational skill. We have a disciplined framework for writing, proving, typing, and honestly searching for rules. Now we can search honestly. So, how do we infer a rule from many sentences? This leads us to the ultimate inference engine of the firewall. Salam and peace be upon you.